I'll share mine. I'm serious.
Well, I can see if I get my arms long enough.
Okay. Or do you want me to hold it?
I used to make fun of people for that, but
It changes. Good morning. Let's call this meeting to order. County Commissioners for Monday, June 8th, 2015. Stand for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is it adjusted?
Well, it dropped down.
Oh,
No.
I don't know if it came up much.
Mine at home does that even when I turn it just right. It drops me to the floor. All right.
Okay.
Ready to roll.
Have public comment, 1 minute, and community update. Do we have any public comment? Minute or community updates?
I'll share Montana a minute. Just Broadwater County. We had the Miracle in Healthcare dinner with the hospital Friday night, sold out. They actually had a waiting list of people trying to get tickets, $50 a ticket, and the employees at the hospital were sponsored by the vendors of the hospital, so it was a wonderful evening to celebrate what Townsend has done. And then the other thing is you look out on the lake, and the number of people enjoying our lake out here is spectacular. We spent Sunday on the lake with a couple hundred of our closest friends, maybe even 1,000 or more. So this is paradise, and we're lucky to live
Let me
here.
tell you what goes by my house. I would able to charge $0.25 a week for going by.
Oh, I bet.
I'd be having money. I also attended the hospital celebration. It was wonderful. The food was great. They had prime rib, Big Bull catered that. They had a nice program. And they took this old building over here across the street. It was the old Grover building. And I forget, do you remember how many loads of shredded paper they took out?
No, but it was astonishing.
A humongous amount of paper that they hauled out, of shredded paper. I suspect they were, medical records were able to be, yeah, but it turned out wonderful. Everybody brought paint, I guess, that had paint at home. No, I don't care what color it is, just bring your paint. Well, I'll throw it into a 5-gallon bucket, mixed it up, painted it, looks great. A nice place. So I have to say hats off to them for that and for all that they've done.
I attended the Mako District Conference at Virginia City on Friday. It was very informative. It was a good meeting.
Was there lots of new things come up there at Mako?
Yeah, they went through all the bills in the legislature, one that passed, the ones that didn't, and like I said, informative. It's, it goes through kind of fast. I made some notes of things I wanted to follow up on later. The one thing that stuck in my mind and surprised everybody, that during the legislature, this bill was passed, that the county governments have to have the POW flag.
Really?
Yeah. And,
Why didn't we know that?
I don't think anybody there knew about it until Harold started telling about it. And it tells, it can't be bigger than the American flag, it's gotta be below it, and the state flag can still be above it if you have to fall through it on the pole, but, So evidently, that took effect at the signing of it, which would have been during the legislature. Did you hear anything about this?
No, I just know that last year we went to the celebration of the designation of the POW MIA highway.
Highway,
Ever
huh?
since then, we've been putting flags down at Broadway and highway down there, so. But I know the governor said that it'll remain flying over the state legislature until all the, I think there's around 58 from Montana, that from all wards that they're trying to find the POW MIA.
It's a tough thing to find.
I did attend that event on Friday where they brought the ashes of 6 veterans to the cemetery, and it was over 400 motorcycles with the Patriot Guards. They had the Knights of Columbus, they had an Indian group there. It was a really nice ceremony. So,
This was the veteran cemeteries when?
yeah, they found, actually they found 9 ashes just hanging up, on a shelf, probably in a funeral parlor that nobody claimed. And there's a group, I can't remember the name of it, but it's throughout the United States where they're trying to find these veterans and get them buried in the state cemeteries.
Hmm.
It was really nice. So they escorted them all the way down from Great Falls. Can you imagine meeting them on the highway, 400 motorcycles, plus there were other vehicles.
What a nice honor for them.
Mm-hmm.
A very nice thing. Well, and did I see a thing in the Helena paper? Are they not gonna do funerals at the fort, or what's the story?
The way I understand it is, to tell you the truth, I'm not really sure, but I think from now on, they're going to, unless somebody previous bought their plot, it's all going to be done up at that new memorial where they can put their remains in. But I didn't hear anything else.
I heard that too, no services, I think.
I think no graveside services is what it
Yeah.
said.
Is it?
Everything's done up at that,
That
what they
place.
call it, where
Oh.
they put the cremated remains.
But the only thing that I heard about it is that if somebody isn't cremated but still has a casket, they're not allowing anything at where they're putting the casket in. And some families like to be there when they actually lower it into the ground, but those are the regulations now.
Dana, did you have a comment?
I just got something brief,
Okay.
if I can have a minute.
Go ahead.
I just got some packets I need to hand out here to you guys. I went through, did some stuff this weekend, and it's regarding this Eustis Roads approach thing. I want you all to read through this, if you would. I know it's quite a bit, but read through it. Look at it. This here is a approach permit previous to 2008 that's been used, okay? So all I'm asking is just read it, go through it. It's all self-explained in the letter on top. But I think you all need to look at it, read it, and then we can,
Talk about it, huh?
well, we don't even gotta talk about it necessarily, it's just the way it is. Okay?
Yeah, I'll read through it because I got a call from him again.
Well, I visited with him Thursday morning when I was down there, and I basically told him everything that was on here, so.
Now, I guess, quick question, this was in effect, do they have to get approach a permit when those houses went in?
You bet.
That's been an ongoing thing for a long
It's
time.
been an ongoing thing for a long time. And there's only 5, I could only find 5 permits on that whole thing. And 2 of them are way up at the upper end. And then there was 3 of them done for the subdivision there itself. But there was never any pipes put in, there was never any follow-up. And that was from Lawrence Gibbs, just entering his subdivision. So, he's in violation. Anybody that doesn't have a culvert are in violation. I mean, we can go in there, we can take a blade in there, we can cut each one of them out if we want. And nobody can do a thing about it, but for the little bit of stuff I did there, You know, we need to take a look at this and just, we need to follow the rules. That's what we need to do, so. And the
Exactly.
rules are stated in those papers.
Okay.
Thanks for
Rather than
giving
have
us
somebody
those.
just come in and say, you're gonna do this, no, we're not. So, and I hate to be so blunt, that's the way it is. You know, if we got rules and regulations and we're not gonna follow them, let's throw them all out. Just don't even worry about it. And then let's just have a free-for-all. So,
So how many residences there you think that,
there's 15 to 16 approaches up there. And not one pipe and none of them.
So a cloudburst makes a mess.
Huh?
A cloudburst makes a mess.
Not really. I mean, you know, we had a cloudburst up there just last week. You know, they're okay, they can get in and out of there, but the people that are, the one that's doing some hollering, he needs to take a look at this permit, because I asked him, he don't have one. Never did do one. You know, if he wants to go ahead and look at one and do it, that's fine.
I wonder if we should send,
No, I just look at this.
Okay.
And then
We'll
we'll sit
get
down and
back.
discuss what we need to do. because,
okay,
I mean, I've got some other options I can do and I'm willing to do, but I'm not spending a whole bunch of money up there on pipe. I'm not gonna do it. I don't think we should have to do it. I don't think anybody in this town or anybody up at the north end of the county should have to pay for putting pipe in down on somewhere where somebody should have done it. It's the way it is.
yeah,
I mean, I don't wanna pay for somebody's pipe down there when they should have done it during the permit. You know,
Years ago.
yeah. So, anyway, look at the information, and please read through it today while you're all here, so that maybe you can discuss it a little bit. I don't know how much time you have this afternoon or whatever, but I've highlighted a bunch of stuff in the approach permits themselves and in the county road standards there. And one set of county road standards is just a part of it. It's previous to 1983. The rest of it is previous to, or, you know, up until now. I think we revised it in 2008. And it's all there, so. I mean, I spent a lot of time putting this together, so at least look at it, read it, so you got it in mind, please,
Will do.
okay?
absolutely.
I mean, I don't mean to come up here trying to be disrespectful, I just,
well, no, that's great, yeah, that's fine.
You did your job.
well, I'm trying.
Thanks,
All right,
Dana.
thank you.
Thank you.
The Mako conference, just a couple of things too that we need to know. I went to that as well, it was excellent. We have a letter from, that I will make copies for if you want to learn, just on SRS and forests. Also, just a couple of things, this is our STIP, and I'll put this downstairs in our office. But reappraisals now are a 2-year cycle instead of 6, that's been a big deal in the news.
Why is that?
Because frankly, people were overtaxed in the last 6 years. 2008, when things were going good and big and things were selling and prices were high, everyone's property tax got based then for a 6-year cycle. So as the economy went down and sales slowed and prices went down, people were still being taxed at the 2008 rate. So it was one of those bills that sailed through the legislature, was signed by the governor immediately to change it to a 2-year cycle, so it was more equitable to property taxpayers.
My question is, revenue is so behind. How are they gonna do this?
No idea.
That's their problem, not ours.
Yeah, I don't have any idea, but yeah. I hope they can. I know our folks are sure working hard here. They work good for the county, they work hard for the county here in the county courthouse. I think that's important, an important distinction to make 100% of the time. And I know, we talked about this, I know you feel exactly the same way. To answer your question, I don't know. Are the county's payment for employees' retirement and PERS is gonna go up slightly this year due to some investments that the board made. I highlighted some things. This was the first year that anybody can remember that there was not a single change to subdivision law. Subdivision and Plating Act, not a single change.
The reason is, I was the community secretary for local government in the Senate in 1978. Is that right? 79, whatever. Back in the 70s. And that's when subdivisions were the hot topic. And every one of those bills ended up in my committee.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
So you know what backwards and forwards and forwards and backwards.
Wow.
One of the things that Harold, Cheryl, and Chantel all said is most of their time at the legislature this year was killing bad bills. And there was a heck of a lot of them.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So some of the things that did pass is special districts are now required to have their minutes stored electronically so that anybody can get copies. In the past, they were literally kept in people's garages in boxes. Nobody could ever find them. Now they have to be stored electronically. Chances are they'll have to go through the courthouse to do that. And then the other big one for us for budgeting purposes, CIPs, used to be that once money was put into a CIP and it was defined what that was for, that money stayed there forever. You can actually change the description of a CIP. It can be amended through the amendment process, and you can actually move money in and out as need be. So just those few bits and pieces. We also had quite a bit of time spent on the Affordable Care Act in relation to county jails. About $86,000 was spent of taxpayers' money last year in this county alone on health insurance for people staying in the Hotel Broadwater County.
In this county?
Mhm. So the Affordable Care Act will actually have some stop gaps that save taxpayers money. Essentially, it's gonna require the people who stay over here who commit the bad acts to have their own insurance. Even if they lose it after they are found guilty, the Affordable Care Act, once they're released, has a mechanism to get them back on their own so that they're not on our backs anymore. So that's pretty big. Also, last week, we had a Board of Health meeting. Fall Fest was last week, City Council, a couple of evening meetings on the building project. And with that, we heard from the public last week a couple of times in a couple of meetings. Corey has not been involved with this process. He would like a meeting to actually hear from the departments. I'm just pointing at you because you're the department head, not necessarily involved with this project, and you're here, your representative. But he would actually have a meeting where he can hear firsthand testimony from department heads, from board members, from the ancillary departments that have needs for this facility. And so he has requested another meeting on the 17th. So we will, since there's no holiday, be able to get that in the newspaper. And,
June 17th?
yep, 6:30. And I was thinking the ambulance building, another idea was this courtroom. I don't know if you guys have a preference.
No.
I don't either. So, I'll send you guys the ad as soon as it's done. If you have any thoughts, just share them with me when they come up. And, that's it.
You know, I guess I'm gonna backtrack. Why not here? Because we have air conditioner here. And over in that building, there's not.
No, it does kind of illustrate how bad that building is.
Yes,
What
it
about
does.
the library meeting room there?
We have to pay
Because
for
they
that.
charge Franklin,
We have to pay to use that.
and they don't like food on the carpet, and we should provide maybe pizza, since we're asking so many of our staff and board members, again, pointing at you guys just in total. So, if you have any thoughts, please share. And that's it.
All right.
Okay, you're gonna run behind a little bit. Brian Holmes, solid waste.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
I got a solid waste board member with me here today too,
Good morning, sir.
to cover my back. The last month has been pretty okay. It's been busy. We saw a huge influx about 2 weeks ago. We had a lot of trash to deal with. But it's kind of tapered off again now. I don't know what the deal was, but somebody on the east side of the lake must have moved or something, because it was Memorial Day weekend, and we got slammed at Dry Gulch Canister site,
Wow.
and Raidersburg that weekend too, for some reason. And Toston there was hardly anything there, so I don't know. It's hard to tell what's going on. The city site's been pretty steady. The biggest problem we've had in the last month is my backhoe decided to have a hiccup. I had a hydraulic valve go out on the backhoe boom. It took us, so we were down about a week. Took the cat mechanic to come down and do it. Brent did not have time to get to it. So we probably spent, I'd say, close to $3,000 getting that fixed.
It's up and running now.
It's running again now. That backhoe is a 1994, I believe. It's got about 7,000 hours on it. And in the words of the cat mechanic that worked on it, he says, "This thing's wore out." So I took that to the solid waste board the last time we met. And they said, "Well, look around and see what's out there to find." And I did. Got a hold of the cat salesman and the John Deere salesman, and they both got back to me with potential replacements. John Deere came back with a 2013. It's a smaller size than the one we have. It's the same size as the one that the road crew has. It's got about 3,000 hours on it, and they want about $42,000 for that. Cat came back with a proposal. They had one that they just got in from a small contractor out of Great Falls. It's a 2003 model. Again, it's the next size down from the one we had, but it would do what we want to do. It's, with the trade-in of ours, it's about $32,000. I told the salesman, I said, "That looks like a good deal." I said, "If we can get it done before the end of June, all the better, and get it in this year's budget and not carry it over to next year." So I think we've upgraded our backhoe. I haven't heard back from them yet on logistics of when it'll be here, that kind of thing, but it could be fairly soon. And it's a night and day difference from our machine to that one. That one's got, like I said, 1,600 hours on it. It's got plenty of life left in it. They said, "You'll probably never have to worry about getting another one in this one," so I said, that's good to hear. But it would relieve a lot. I appreciate the road crew for their help. While our backhoe was down, they either packed for us or let us use their backhoe to do it. That, I think, was a huge step in operations wise. In the past, the two departments didn't get along that well, but I think it was, we made it work, and it worked out fine. Other than that, I've had a lot of trading of emails with other departments lately about the way we do things and the way they do things.
From other counties, you mean?
From other counties. And it's interesting to hear what other people are doing. Our tree pile is on the list to be ground up here shortly. It's a pretty good sized pile right now. I talked with Mark's lumber representative over the weekend, just seeing when they were gonna be here, because I saw their grinder go through town the other day. And he says, "You're next on the list, but we threw a rod in the motor in Bozeman, so it's being rebuilt down there now. That'll take a couple of days to grind that up, and then we'll be done with it." The reason Chris is here is the solid waste board spent quite a bit of time kicking around I'll I'll just turn it over to you and talk about it.
We,
You're the board.
we are doing some research on what people are getting paid, and
You can keep a copy of that.
And then I can share, if you need a
If you
copy.
need one to talk over.
and so we've just been seeing like different departments that are the same size as us. They're paid for their people and their manager, and we just feel that, that we need to give our manager a raise for the work that he's doing and being done. And so this is just a proposal for giving them a raise.
For the next fiscal year. Road.
Is the money in your budget?
Yeah.
That's always the number one question.
Did I turn it too quickly? Okay.
What we found in doing this is our staff are paid fairly well, but the management side is not. We're kind of behind the times there. So if we boost that a little bit, and I looked over your longevity spreadsheets, they look fine. As you noticed, I put any longevity would be included on that.
Could I just ask Chris, your last name?
Asplund,
Could you please spell it?
ASPLUND, LUND.
At this point, we'll just take this under advisement and see where it goes from there. We have nothing definite yet on the longevity.
Well, she's good. She does
When I talked to Mako, they just want to caution you on this longevity. It could be pretty costly.
The only thing I saw in here is I see the sheriff's office is included in this also, where they already have longevity in their contract,
They wouldn't be getting any more. Debbie put that in just to include everybody.
so everybody would be getting the same longevity.
That was one of her, I asked for 0.5, Elaine for 1.5, and she cut the middle with one since we already have that. So that's why it's in there.
Doesn't the sheriff and detention contract say they get it at 1 year, where this looks at 3 years?
I think so, but I don't, yeah, I think you're right. I don't remember, but I think you're right. Yeah,
The problem I see with giving longevity at 1 year is it really doesn't reward anybody for staying here for a length of time. Longevity is to be a long-term employee. If you're getting 1% at 1 year, that's just a built-in 1% raise every year. Longevity is meant to keep people here, and that's the problem I have with the way the sheriff's office contract reads now. Is, they're considering a long-term employee 1 year of employment. That doesn't make sense to me.
I agree with you. It's state law, so that's why it's in there. But, I think, I don't know if anything's been put on the agenda yet, but I think we should have a discussion. This was something that Franklin started last June, if I'm not mistaken. And now that we have the spreadsheet, we've had that for about 2 weeks now. I think it should be something that
So when
at least inform people about.
When do you think the solid waste board will be able to get a response to that?
Chairman?
You mean on the longevity part or the raise or
On the
the total?
request that they put in front of you? Because that has nothing to do with longevity.
Well, it'd be during the budget process. I would imagine we might have to have a public meeting on this stuff.
Why would that be?
Have you
I
had
mean, these
public
are
meetings on
public
everybody
meetings.
else?
Well, there has been, but we're starting over the cycle again now.
But last year you gave the road crew a salary adjustment with no public meeting, and we
Yeah.
done a regular meeting
Yeah,
here.
see, because the solid waste got theirs the year before that, and then the road crew, and now it's been just
Well,
Can you
we're
turn-
coming at, I told you guys before when I came in and said I had turned down a job, that I was probably gonna take another bite at the apple. This is what the solid waste board recommends. So why do we have to have another public meeting
Like I said, maybe
when
we'll
we've
have to have
never had a
public
public meeting on it before? Is the
Maybe
rules
so.
changing?
But anyway, we've gotta discuss this and look through this some more. I mean, our payroll's getting pretty huge.
Well, that is part of growth. If you look at the solid waste, it's in line with any other business model you're gonna see. We spend about a third of our budget on wages. And that's in line with business practices
In other counties.
in other counties. Jefferson County spends about half of their budget on wages. That's a little on the high side, I think. They also run a little different operation. They run manned sites, and they have to have more people to do that, so.
One of the things that we have to keep in mind, and of course, Franklin, you know this from your experience on this board, and you're three of the budget now, you guys are an enterprise fund.
Right.
You're not part of the county budget. You are a standalone department. You are based on fees, not mills. So when we ask the two questions that are always asked, one, can you justify it? Two, can you afford it in your budget? The answer based on your budget is yes. Can you
Even the-
justify it?
Just the work we did this last year on bringing everybody into the loop that
Mhm.
needs to be done covers the cost of all this. And then some. It
Right.
probably covers the cost of any salary increases and a new backhoe. I mean, if you
What was
really look
that
at it
total
that way.
that you brought in extra
Um,
last year, just from
On the
that?
real property side, it's about $38,000.
Okay,
That doesn't include the mobile homes, which I'm not exactly sure what that number is.
So 38 pays for the backhoe then.
Easily. But I already have money in my budget to cover that. We'll have enough carryover this year to cover that. That's why I want to get it done in June if we can.
I agree that we should make a snap decision, but I don't see any reason why this can't be on the agenda next week.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why it should be drug out either.
No, I don't think that that's why.
Especially being it's an enterprise fund.
Exactly,
It's not coming off of levies,
right,
meals.
yeah.
So could we have it on the agenda next week?
And I could get more of my board here next week too,
That'd be good.
hopefully. If they're not on vacation.
That's, next one's the 15th, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, we got, Ron, we'd have it, either 10:30 or 10:45. I don't know how long Doug is gonna be on just before that. Maybe at 10:45.
Either way, let us know. We'll make it work.
Thank you, do you want copies?
Yeah, probably that, probably.
In your box?
Okay, I'm gonna put on there solid waste at 10:45. Market adjustment.
Okay.
And I think it's good. The more of your board that can come, the better.
Okay. 10:45. 50.
Okay,
I have a question, I don't know if I'm allowed to make a comment on this or not. I work for the county in the solid waste department, and we get a longevity pay. And we don't receive any longevity until we're in our 6th year of being there. It's like, once you're there for 5 years, you get it, and it's $100 a year for every year that you're there, but you don't start receiving the money until you're in your 6th year. So I will be there 5 years this November, but it won't be until next November that I start receiving a longevity pay. And then they give you $100 a year after that, so then every year after that, your check increases by $100.
So it's a solid $100 at 6 years.
They pay it in one lump sum.
Yeah,
Okay, so your 7th year is at $200, 100 per?
you get, like on my 6th year, I'll get $600. And then $100 added to that every year after that you're there.
So in 7 years, you get $700.
Okay.
At 10 years, you get another $1,000.
And that's how they do it for Lewis and Clark County.
And they pay it out in one lump sum in November, so it's kind of like a Christmas check.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's a good way to do it.
oh, I like that.
That's all I have to say.
So
Okay.
Thank you.
you don't get any longevity until you've been there 6 years, is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's on your 6th
But then
year.
it goes back
Yeah,
to day one.
Mhm. That gives people a little incentive to stick around.
Yeah,
You're not getting that 1 year.
makes sense.
Oh,
Okay, well, that'll be on the agenda, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
We'll, oh, I guess I have one thing. On that dumpster there at Toston, that fence, that netting is loose skin, there's a big chunk of it's missing. I don't know if the wind blew it up completely or what.
It may have, or it may have folded over.
It's the bottom part, and, well, it could possibly be folded over
We'll take a look at it
on that north side right there.
and get it fixed up. We're, got one guy on vacation this week, so we're a little shorthanded, but we'll get him out there eventually.
Just wanted to let you know on that. Okay. Okay, well, thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
thanks, guys.
Okay, we're just running this a little bit later. It's 10:30 scheduled. Greg Jackson, Mako, Julie's appearance, Centennial Insurance.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
How you doing all?
Good, thanks.
How's country living?
I'm getting used to it. I like the summer.
Yeah.
I get a lot done. I have to go home and see the house.
What do you mean country living?
I moved out to Austin.
Oh, isn't living in Townsend country living?
Oh, no, this is
Oh,
rural.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I grew up in Stoughton. so-
Scobie, you said?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
That's the end of everything.
Kind of, well, yeah. That's the way we like it, nobody finds us. Gonna do whatever up there.
You know, we don't have that luxury though, because.
No, you're-
Helen and Bozeman,
you're-
they know where we're at.
You want a copy? No, I guess I'm sorry.
No problem.
I can get it down. Well, thanks for taking the time to meet with Julie and I. What we're doing here is to review with Broadwater County your renewal for both the property and casualty and the workers' compensation trusts. As you recall, the members at the midwinter this last year did change the names. Property and casualty was known as the Joint Powers Insurance Authority, and the workers' comp was the Joint Powers Authority. Well, we know that our member counties and you commissioners are dealing with a lot of acronyms, so we decided to make it a little easier to understand, if you would. So the property and casualty trust is called that, and the workers' compensation is called the workers' compensation trust. So all the documents are going to be changed and everything like that. So to begin with, when we're going through this, if there's any questions, issues regarding claims or anything else, please, please let us know, and we'll see if we can take care of any issues that may arise. Okay, in front of you, you have an agenda. We'll cover the property and casualty program first, so if you want to turn to the page after, the golden colored page. So what I want to do here is just reference or to review with you the decisions that the trustees made at the renewal meeting the second week of April. Now, that's been a long time from now, but we're just getting done with our renewals with our members. And what I want to do is go through each one of these cost centers. Now, these figures then are transformed or transferred into premiums by line of coverage, general liability, auto, errors and omissions, law enforcement, and so on. And then what we can do, if you have any questions, of course, relative to any of this, please don't hesitate. On the liability loss fund, this is the amount of money that we collect to pay our self-insured portion of a liability claim up to $500,000. This year, which we're still in, we collected $4.4 million to pay those $500,000. And that amount is basically actuarially set. Well, this year the trustees decided to increase that base from 4.4 to 4.6, 200,000. That 200,000 is spread over all the member counties as well as the 230 some special districts that we insure. Okay? They did that in order to achieve an 80% confidence level, which is an actuarial term, meaning that we want to be 80% confident that we have enough money to spend to pay those claims for that 1 year. We were at 76%. We ultimately want to get to 90%, but it's going to take a few years to do that over time. So we increased that base by 200,000. Then what the trustees did, is to adjust each member's liability loss fund assessment by your average 5-year loss ratio for liability claims. So if you want to turn the page, and for Broadwater County, since 2009, 2010, you go over to the right-hand side, you have an average loss ratio of 2%. Now, what we're wondering is, did you open your doors? No, we're just kidding. Because that's absolutely almost 0% naturally. So you did receive the maximum credit. And the maximum credit was 5% credit of your liability loss fund. Now the trustees could have gone to 8, 10, 15, up to 20%. But they only went up to 5% because that has a lot to do with how much equity we have in the program, which is indirectly or directly related to the confidence level. Okay, so they opted just to do the 5% loss ratio adjustment. Some counties, of course, got up to a 5% increase if they had a bad loss ratio. But you guys had a great loss ratio. So, and then on the property side, a 15%. Now, we don't adjust your property premium based on your loss ratio, except for physical damage on vehicles. If you recall, we implemented that about 3 years ago because we weren't collecting enough money in our self-insured portion, I'll get to that in a minute, to pay for a lot of the physical damage claims that we were experiencing. So, if you want to turn back to the previous, if you look under the total there, you can see that for the 2015-16 loss ratio adjustment, you did get a credit of $2,085 at 5%. Okay? Now, even we had that base adjustment, and because you had that credit, the amount that we assessed you this year did go down. It looks like probably around $1,300 total. All right? So you benefited from that good 5-year loss ratio average of 2%. You can't get any better than that, to be honest with you. So any questions on that? All right.
Nope.
The next item is property loss fund. This is the amount of money that we collect when we pay up to $100,000 for property claims, including physical damage on vehicles. We collect about $1.3 million this year. About 90% of that is paid out in hundred thousands, up to $100,000 for physical damage on vehicles and contractors' equipment. So we had to increase that 1.3, plus then we had to adjust each member's based on your loss ratio for physical damage on vehicles. So you did receive a 6% increase. If you look down under total, the last loss ratio adjustment there, a 6%, you could have gone up to 11% on that loss ratio adjustment. And believe me, you're not alone, okay, of the member counties, who now we are collecting about 1.6 million rather than 1.3 in order to pay those 100,000s, okay? And your portion of that increase was 1,297, so your property loss fund did go up from 21,617 to 22,914. Now, there's only one county that got a credit so far that I've dealt with, and that's Phillips up in Malta. And that's because 2 years ago, all the white-tailed deer died. And so most of our physical damage claims are sheriff's officers hitting deer in patrol cars, and other physical damage as well. But primarily, they're the only ones so far that have received a credit on the physical damage part of the formula here.
So they really did lose a lot of deer?
Oh, yeah. The whole High Line up there along the, is that the Milk? Along the Milk River up there, they had blue tongue disease or something a couple of years, and they're just starting to come back. But the counties up there 2 years ago, none of them got an increase. This year, the only one so far has been Phillips. So anyway, which is kind of interesting to me. Now, you see the jail standards detention adjustment in between the liability loss fund and property loss fund? What we did before on the loss control credit for each of our counties, one of the criteria was implementation of the jail standards for your jails and other criteria that we use to determine your loss control credit. This year, because of we now have a jail advisory group that's been working for 2 years now to do three things. Establish a viable peer review process among our jails that we insure, and of the 48 counties we insure, 37 operate some type of jail. Number two, to help develop policies and procedures to implement the jail standards. All of our members who operate jail standards have either recognized or have adopted the jail standards. Okay. And number three is to give our jailers and our jails and our sheriffs the tools for their jailers to identify those who are mentally ill or suicidal, so they can take action relative to, if they have a place to put them, put them. If not, that's the big issue in Montana right now, is if in fact you do identify somebody who's mentally ill, where do you take them? And how do you handle them? So those are the three primary objectives or goals of the jail advisory group. We went into a little snag with peer reviews because we're having difficulties in determining who's going to coordinate that with the sheriffs. But I think we can get that resolved. But other than that, we're proceeding. We have grant money available. You'll be seeing Jim Muscovich here some more, as well as your sheriff and your undersheriff and your jail administrator, getting information on systems or on tools to help identify those who are mentally ill or suicidal. So that's an ongoing process. But what we've done is that Jim established through trustee approval. You want to look third page behind your loss ratio adjustments. A set of criteria or benchmarks that are weighted up to 100% to determine what, in fact, if there's any credit for those counties on your law enforcement premium, or the premium associated with your detention center. Of what kind of credit. Now, the first year, this is the first year we've done this, the trustees were very conservative and said we're only going to approve a 5% credit. They could have gone up to 20, and they probably will at some point in time. But for Broadwater County, you received $131 credit, so you maximized your 5% by meeting those certain criterias, with the exception of maintaining same-sex staff for females. You're not alone in that one. Only some of the larger jails are able to do that and have the resources to do that. But basically, you've met most of the criteria as weighted. And I know Jim will be to visit with, as the process goes on, with you and your sheriff, and continue to bring you up to speed on what's being done in this area. We find that the jails have been our biggest exposure in the law enforcement field in the last 6 or 7 years. Prior to that time, law enforcement, the sheriff's department, their operational liability, pursuits, false arrests, that kind of thing, were about 60% of our total claims cost. So we entered into an agreement with the League of Cities and Towns, or NMIA, and ourselves, and we jointly fund a risk management trainer at Law Enforcement Academy. And since we've done that, at least for us, it dropped from 60% of total claims cost to 12. So that has really helped. So we want to do something similar to the Law Enforcement Academy as well. They've been very cooperative to do something similar for jails, for jail operations. So just to let you know, it's $131, but it's better than an increase, and with some of them did get, but not many.
We'll take whatever savings we can.
Yes, I understand. Okay, any questions on the property loss fund and the jail thing? Okay. The next one is a liability premium. This is your bond payment. If you remember that the membership approved a 20-year bond back in 2003 to add an additional $5 million of bond proceeds, sitting above that 4.6. So if we should ever blow through the 4.6, we've got another $5 million. We haven't penetrated through that, to that layer yet. Knock on wood. Okay, so that bond payment is due in 2023. The trustees 3 years ago came to the conclusion they did not want to pay it off that 10-year period, but now they can partially pay it off or pay it off anytime they want. And if that does happen, if they partially pay it off, then your bond payment of 3,849, which doesn't change, would go down as a result of that. Of course, the bond would have to be amended to do that. But you have a promissory note that is Broadwater County's payment. It's a $360,000 a year payment, approximately. And so that amount that you are obligated for was a percent of your liability loss fund of the total back in 2003. Okay? So that doesn't change. Brit, that's my dog's name. No, Brit is our reinsurer. What we did 4 years ago now, is that we were totally self-insured up to the statutory limits for liability, $750 million. 4 years ago, we decided to cut our obligation off at $500,000 per occurrence, which is the $4.6 million. Then we purchased reinsurance from Brit, which is a London syndicate owned by Gallagher, who's a broker. And they, for the $750,000 tort limit, we pay $500, they pay $250. For the 1.5, we pay $500, they pay $1 million. But in addition to that, they provide for all insureds, including districts and our member counties, an additional $5 million of liability limits for federal and out-of-state claims. Because you get a civil rights action brought against Broadwater County, you end up in federal court in Helena or Butte or Great Falls. They don't care about tort limits. They could care less. So we do have the additional liability limits for that situation. Reinsurer means that they follow our form. In other words, our policy, they follow it. Excess carriers, like we have for property, fidelity and crime, and water and machinery, we follow their form. That's the difference. So that's another good thing, is they follow our form. Any change we make in our policy, they have to approve it. And they usually do, but they follow our form. Their premium is $5,824. That's your portion of a $520,000 premium. And that's proportioned the same way your bond payment was, okay? And that does not change. That didn't change from last year or from this year for the renewal. The next item is cyber liability coverage. We added that last year. It was mandatory. A lot of questions of why. Well, we had our first claim this last year in Roosevelt County. Their server was hacked, and it was a blackmail situation where whoever did it, and then we were thinking, the FBI was called in and all this. They wanted $15,000 or else they're going to destroy the other servers or do whatever. And they determined it did come from Russia somewhere, and they didn't pay it. But then it was reported to us, but then they were able to internally with their IT contractor and some internal staff were able to take care of the situation. However, the carrier, who is AIG, would have sent forensic people, would have contacted anybody whose information was stolen or taken. And so, you know, it's more and more of an exposure. It's like pollution coverage 20 years ago. You didn't think you needed it, and then all of a sudden you needed it. Well, this is kind of the same thing. And that premium went up a little bit because Yellowstone County went out, got their own. You know Yellowstone County. You know, I think they're another state. Now, don't tell them that. And don't tell Bill that, would you? But so we still had the same premium, $113,000. So everybody else had to kind of take up the remaining, which Yellowstone would have paid. So, but they have a $250,000 deductible, and we sit above them anyway in the other coverages. So, you know, so the cyber is, you know, the coverage is there. If you have any kind of incident, I don't care how minor you think it is, and I assume you contract for IT, yeah, then, you know, notify that your contractor first. But also contact Julie, she'll report it to our claims people. Our claims people will report to AIG. That's all. That's all you have to deal with it. Then AIG will take over. And I don't care how minor the situation is, make sure that you report it. So.
Hey, Greg, on that, this is actually the first full year that we'll have IT coverage. We were way behind on that. Can we expect any kind of a decrease for now having, we have DIS?
Oh, I see, contracted service. I'll tell you what we're gonna do, and it may result in that, but we're kind of a year behind. What we want is that the only information that the company has that provided us the quotes were the applications that were sent in. And there were deficiencies identified in a lot of the applications as far as systems were concerned. So we're making arrangements with AIG through Gallagher to send out a team and visit each county and meet with your contracted person or your internal staff, depending on what the situation is, and go over these deficiencies. And if they're serious enough, then provide some type of financial incentive to get those corrected. It may be a reduction in the premium. It may be just the pool providing some funding, or the company providing it without charge. And that's our parameter right
Okay.
there, is that we don't want the counties to be saddled with a $50,000 improvement in their system if in fact they find some deficiencies. So that, we're kind of behind on that right now, but this fall we'll be meeting at an AGRIT conference in Chicago. That's where the underwriters are located, to make arrangements for them to come out next year and do this. So, I don't know, indirectly it may result in your system being corrected or enhanced, but not at your cost. Now, as far as reductions, it could result in a reduction in premium as a result of that, because $113,000 for 40, the districts don't have the coverage, just the counties do.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just the counties for the 113. And so I'm a little concerned about the aggregate limit that we have with them is 10 million. So if all of our 48 county systems go, something happens to them, we only have $10 million. So I don't know if that would happen necessarily, but what we'll do is look at that aggregate limit as well as, and that was their concern too, they're being the provider, because they wanted to make sure that the deficiencies eventually were, corrected, because that reduces their exposure as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And
And we'd like to address those too, and I think
Yes,
the county would do
most
that.
counties would.
Yeah,
now, questions always come up, well, we're pretty reliant on state systems, but the state has taken a position that their responsibility ends at the courthouse door. And so you're gonna be responsible for even though they screw up, to some extent. But, it's a situation where, they would take care of their end and you'd have to take care of your end.
okay. Thanks.
Okay, property premium, what this is your excess premium for property, buildings and contents, fidelity and crime, and boiler and machinery. It did tick up a little bit because we increased everybody's values by 2%. Remember, we had the appraisals done, they're done. They were done last year, Eastern Montana was the final group. And we won't have another appraisal cycle until another 3 years from now, probably. So just to let you know, I think your values were right there. You should have a total loss with the courthouse. You will not only get what it's appraised at, but you'll get whatever it takes to rebuild for like, kind, and use up to 100 million. Because we have a 100 million limit based on what is needed to replace a totally destroyed building for like, kind, and use. Replacement value plus, yeah.
That's important.
That is important, because there's a lot of ordinance requirements that you don't know about, or that you're maybe new, that you have to comply with. Just like when Yellowstone County lost the Metro in a tornado. I mean, now, they had that, I think from the insurance company, they got 40 million. But they had to end up, if you would, adding, well, let's put it this way. They did get, it was listed at 40. They got 55 or something like that because of the additional requirements. But then they wanted some enhancements. So the commissioners had to come up with 10 million for those enhancements because they were in addition to what had been there. So we weren't on that, by the way. We don't have property for Yellowstone. Thank goodness. But I think the commissioners handled it well. They were able to do the enhancements and that kind of thing as a result. One of the most underutilized coverages we have is boiler machinery. With boiler machinery coverage, we have equipment breakdown coverage, not only related to your boiler, but any electrical components, pumps, generators, anything. If they don't quit because of wear and tear, and they're either damaged or completely destroyed by some covered cause, electrical surge or anything like that, get hold of Julie, report it. A lot of people think that since it's not property, it's not covered. Well, under boiler machinery, which we have a Cadillac policy, it more than likely is. And we pay a lot of money on generators that have gone with our water and sewer districts, pumps, electrical components, that kind of thing. So make sure that you report any of those kinds of situations that may arise. Okay, administrative costs. This includes agent's commission, claims fee, and operational fee. And it did tick up a little bit because we added an adjuster in the claims department on the liability and property side. And of course, our chief legal counsel now, who is Brian Hopkins. It's not Mike C. Haystead, he retired. Lucky bugger. And
Hey,
he's in France.
careful.
He's in France somewhere.
Nobody else gets to retire. We need you guys.
But Brian's done a really good job. He's got 14, 15 years experience with Cascade County. attorney's office and with the attorney general's office, so he's right there for assistance, so. So we had to increase our we try to keep that around 20% of total cost. We might click above that every once in a while, but 20% seems to be the reasonable range among risk-sharing pools, or pools in general. If you look at Travelers or some of the insurance companies, if you ask them to break down their administrative cost, they're anywhere from 30 to 40% in most cases, of your premium dollars for administrative costs. But that's fine. I mean, it's just kind of a benchmark that we want to stick to about 20%. So, bottom line is that you had a increase, it looks like, of about $2,700 or thereabouts, or 2.15%. The average increase was 2.3%. Some counties got as high as 7% because of their loss ratios primarily. And some counties had, I think the lowest I've seen so far is 0.29%. So you're a little bit below the average as far as the increase this year. Talked with agents, and I don't know, Julie, if you've seen this, but on some of their commercial business, they're seeing anywhere from 5 to 9%, around in that range. Depends on if you have a lot of property or not, or whatever the case may be. So, any questions so far?
No, other than that hacking, did they send money to Russia, or they never did that?
No.
Okay.
No. The person internally that was handling it just about did.
Oh.
Just about did. And they, I don't know if it's one of the commissioners or their assistant said, no, we need to report this, because now they have the cyber coverage, so. But they did report it. Prior to our cyber coverage, we've had maybe 3 or 4 incidences where one case in Ravalli, where the bank that the treasurer was dealing with was sent a email with her signature to transfer $20,000 from this account to this account. And the bank called the treasurer and said, "Is this yours?" She said, "No." So they cut that off, but they didn't do any investigation to where that came from.
Wow.
Yeah. Probably the most entertaining one was in Richland County, where they hacked the system and reviewed the minutes. Well, you can do that anyway.
Right.
So I think what they were doing is kind of testing the system, to see. Yellowstone County had a couple, but they have an internal staff that was able to kind of cut that off. But
And you
Yeah.
hear these all the time, and they all come from Russia.
well, Russia, China,
The big one, yeah.
yeah, the big one for the U.S. government.
Yeah.
There are some Slavic or Eastern European locations where they're doing that. This is just off the side here, but what the thing is now to find out your heritage? DNA. You send the DNA in, and they can determine from your DNA what your heritage is, primarily. Well, I grew up in Scobie thinking I was German Norwegian, because I start freezing. I start sweating at 65 degrees. But then my sister did it. She's into that, and find out with that word, 35% Eastern European, like Bohemian, Romanian, Czechoslovakian, all that.
Huh.
And I'm kind of scratching my head going, what the heck? But if you ever have it, just came to mind. If you have the ability to do that, it's kind of interesting. The next percentage is Norwegian, Scandinavian, but I couldn't believe that we were Eastern European. And so we're trying to figure out.
This far apart on the map.
Well, you have a good point. Because my mom's maiden name is Machenbacher, and they're from the Black Forest region of Germany, which is right next door to Hungary, or wherever, so you're right. you know, my grandma Jackson is Bohemian, so anyway, that's here and there. But it's just
So how
kind
did you
of,
have to send in DNA?
you have to send in DNA, just like a cotton swab of your, and my sister did it, you know, Amy did it, and, because she's into genealogy, she loves that kind of stuff, you know, and my son-in-law was married to my wife's daughter. They did the same thing, his sister did the same thing, she lives in Bozeman, and he found out he's part Jewish, which is Eastern Russian, like,
Okay.
like part of Ukraine, that area, you know. And so, I mean, it's just really interesting where, you know, anyway, let's get back. Sorry about that.
That's right.
For whatever reason, it just jumped in my head, for no particular reason whatsoever. Let's cover a couple of items that, if you want, go ahead and turn past the benchmarks. And we have a letter there that we sent out in April of 2015. And this is in regard to the jail situation. The trustees approved an exclusion to our coverage that we will not provide coverage for any claims resulting from a prisoner of one of our members that was sent to a detention facility that doesn't have follow any or have adopted any standards or have been built to any particular standards. That's only targeted to the Hardin Jail in Hardin. They still haven't met any federal, any NIC, or any Montana jail standards. So it's our feeling that, and we have counties like Carbon, Stillwater, that close their jails for sending their prisoners to Yellowstone. Now, Yellowstone's crowded, so they're looking at other options. But we can't have those prisoners sent to these jails that don't have standards that were adopted by, or have been adopted, either be federal or state or whatever the case may be. The other facility that would probably fall in that category would be the private jail up in Shelby. But that jail only takes state and fed. You know, even Toole County doesn't use them for their prisoners. So that's really not an issue. Now, they approved this exclusion, and I think you folks are in a situation where you wouldn't have that problem. Because you would, if you're overcrowded in your facility, you'd probably take them to Gallatin or maybe to Lewis and Clark once they build their new one, because they're overcrowded, that kind of a thing. However, we do have Carbon County, and Commissioner Prinky was in touch with Cody, Wyoming, to take their prisoners into Cody. Well, first of all, the state of Wyoming had some issues with approving contracts between the county and Wyoming bringing in out-of-state prisoners into their facility. That is the first hurdle that they have to. And if that would be the case, then this would be the second hurdle, because we wouldn't provide coverage for that prisoner in Cody, Wyoming, because it's not established by county commissioners under Title VII. So, however, we have the same possibility in Richland County where their new $17 million jail is crowded already. And then Williston, North Dakota will be building a new one. So they might have the opportunity to take their prisoners into North Dakota, and this would apply to that situation as well. So, if that in fact comes about, we may have to take a look at this exclusion, make some changes to it to allow that. As long as that states, that facility meets those state requirements and/or NIC requirements, which is national type requirements or standards. But that was the main reason for this exclusion. And it only affects, so far that we know, Carbon and maybe Richland. See, the people, most of the new jails are being built in eastern Montana. Valley just finished building a new one. Richland's, of course. Roosevelt's going to probably start digging dirt here pretty soon. Custer County is done, half done. So the eastern part of the state's in a pretty good situation, except for juvenile. They still have to take their juveniles to buildings, because they don't have, the only juvenile facility up there is the BIA in Poplar. And the state doesn't endorse or license that facility, so they can't, but. So, you know, the whole JO situation is still in flux from the standpoint of a lot of different areas. I'm thinking we'll probably have a session on it at annual, we'll have a session on it at midyear, midwinter. We'll continue to bring the members up to date on what's going on.
Hey Greg, can I ask you a question about that, or I guess maybe pose a thought?
Mm-hmm.
We have a 48-bed facility for our detention center, so we are happy to take, say, people from Carbon County. Roosevelt, I understand it's too far, but it would be tough for some of us with detention centers wanting to make use of those to see the standards lifted or promoted for use in Wyoming or North Dakota on a business level. I understand the need, I understand it's closer, but from the perspective of a Montana detention center, regional
Right.
detention center, that would be a hard one. So I guess I'm just putting that out there from,
Sure.
and I speak just for me, but I
Yeah.
just want to throw that out there.
No, that's a good point. And talking to Brian and Hopkins, he doesn't see where if in fact Wyoming would allow it, if this exclusion, even if it'd be hard to change it, because under Wyoming, you may have totally different standards, type of standards. It's still not established under Title VII. It's established under whatever code they have in Wyoming. So there's a lot of issues there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's the proximity, more so than anything. I know for juveniles up in the northeastern part of the state, when Lane County and Chinook had a juvenile detention facility there, which they no longer do,
Right.
the cost of taking the juvenile from Plentywood to there and then keeping them in there was like $90 or $95. Now to take them from Plentywood to Billings is $278 per juvenile.
Yeah.
So that's why they were looking at the BIA facility. Now, if Roosevelt builds their new one, they want to put in a juvenile section, but that has to be, of course, endorsed or certified by the state, as the facility does. But, no, that's a good point. And the thing with Yellowstone is that they thought they had enough room forever. Well, they don't. And now that the Bakken has kind of slowed down and backed off a little bit, it looks like, I don't think that some of these facilities will have the population you currently do. But who knows? I mean, it's kind of like a hit and miss type of thing. So, but yeah, I mean, that's a good point. If there's space in a county facility, then use it. You know, and whether or not the transportation costs would be reasonable or effective or efficient enough to do that, that's the other question, I guess.
And we've been providing that,
Yeah.
which has been a great marketing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's really helped our
Well, give
facility.
Mr. Prinky a call.
I just saw him in a short conversation, and you bet that's one of the first
That's one of the
things
first-
I'm doing.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, talk to John. And Stillwater County Columbus doesn't seem to have that issue as much as John does, but, or Carbon. But yeah, through this jail advisory group, which is made up of 28 stakeholders, including the ACLU. So it's a good group, and it's give and take, and lots being done and accomplished with everybody's agreement, quote unquote. So hopefully we can keep that rolling.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
Any more questions on this?
No, thanks.
Okay, the next item is a endorsement to the property policy, which provides physical damage coverage for vehicles. Basically, what this says is that we're gonna provide actual cash value of a vehicle if destroyed or not necessarily damaged, up to what's scheduled on the schedule, on your vehicle schedules, okay? Now, why we're doing this is because when we changed from Travelers to Hartford for our excess property carrier, we didn't realize that if you had a $50,000 fire engine and it's destroyed, and that's what it's scheduled on the schedule, well, maybe the actual cash value, because that type of equipment has appreciated, not depreciated, is $53,000. So under that policy, you pay $53,000. Well, you only paid premium on $50,000. So now what this says is the opposite, to some extent, is that you schedule it at $50,000, if we find you an actual cash value of $52,000, you're only gonna get $50,000. Okay, that's what the actual cash value means. Now, if you only get 37, you only get 37. So, and that is, or could be a problem in the sense that, I don't know about here, but out east again, where things are a little bit different, you have a road grader that you bought for 300 grand, and it's 5 years old, 3 years old, you think it has depreciated, you go to sell it, replace it, or it's destroyed, let's say, and really the replacement is still about the same age, but you're paying $325. Because the number of used equipment out there has gone down, and the values have gone up. Even farm equipment. Even your major farm equipment has pretty well stabilized. In fact, the new stuff is getting more and more expensive, out there. So it's kind of a dilemma that way, but this is the way it is this year. Then what we're gonna work with Hartford is put it on a stated value. So you folks determine the value, what you would want for it, we'll pay premium on it. Even though the actual cash value is less, you're gonna get what's stated. Okay, rather than the actual cash value. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in order to do that, our policy management system, which Julie's familiar with, you guys will be getting your passwords to your portal for Broadwater County. Julie's already through the renewal process has worked with Shannon to set up your schedules on that portal system. Any changes that are made to your schedules, give her the authority to do it, period. Don't let anybody else do it. That way at renewal time, your schedule's the same as our schedules. You don't have 3 or 4 schedules floating around, okay? The other thing too is that on the portals, which now you'll have access to hopefully by July 1st, that you'll be able to see all your policies, your certificates, everything else, plus training. We'll have webinars and other things accessible to you and your departments, if you would. And we'll have to be doing some training, webinar training about how to use it and that kind of thing. But our policy management system is something we've been working on for about 5 years now. Because risk-sharing pools did not have what was called a policy management system or an agency management system. We couldn't take Travelers or somebody else's and plug it into us. It's apples and oranges. So what this system does for both work comp and for PNC is that it provides us access, it coordinates and networks with our claims system, with our financial system, our underwriting system, our member services. And what we did is that I met with, down in a meeting in South Lake Tahoe, we have a combined meeting with California pools. There were 2 pools down there using this outfit out of Vegas and Reno to work on developing this policy management system. I asked Bonnie, she's our data person, to follow them. I had a contact, both, follow them for 3 years until they got to the point where we saw they were pretty effective. We had them come in, Commissioner Briggs from Cascade, who used to own a computer service before he became commissioner, helped us. He was involved with that whole process. And now he was satisfied with it. DIS was satisfied with it. And I don't know if you have DIS as your contracted, yeah.
We do,
And
yes.
they handle us too. So they were all satisfied with the approach they were taking. Now we're implementing it. Work comp is done. Your payroll people automatically through the portal send in your payroll information. And now the agents have done it on the renewal side, so hopefully we can get it expanded for everybody else. But anyway, so after 3 years, we finally decided to go that route. And when I sit in on meetings, when they're having conference calls with the guys out of Reno and Las Vegas, you know, it's in the cloud. Well, come on now. You know, I just learned how to text my 12 grandkids. You're gonna talk about the cloud? Are you kidding me? So, you know, but I'm the type of person that, I don't care about the process, I just want to see the end result. But luckily, we have people who do understand the process, and they've done a heck of a job. Bonnie and Shannon and our DIS people and Joe and our working group, if you would. And I'm real excited because that's what I wanted before I left, because all the underwriting information and everything else we did was manual. Now it's not, it's automatic. And if I would have walked out the door, all of it was right here in my head. You know, I don't want that. I want it to be systemized in boom. So you'll be getting word that you'll have, and you'll have a seminar and shows you how you can access Broward County's information, including claims. We should already get the claims reports, of course, but then if you want to go in and see that information as well. Okay, next item is the loss control credits. Now, the loss control credits, this is a criteria we're using. And as I said, we pulled out the jail criteria now. But you will be getting notice of your points in a check at the end of this month. Because we have to wait till the end of the year. There's still MSPOA for attendance. And then you'll get credit for that as well. The trustees approved $100,000 allocation back. So it's the same as last year, as far as total amount. But then if you achieve, Broward County achieves a certain percent, then you would get a certain percent allocation of that $100,000. So, you know, it just, in this form will come with the check, so you can see that with points we're giving where. And of course, if you have any questions, you know, feel free to get hold of us. The next item is just showing our training for this year. Next year will be similar. With the exception, we're going to have internal controls training. Rick Reisig is a CPA out of Great Falls. Apparently, there's been some changes and updates in the GASB system as far as governmental accounting is concerned. So we want Rick to concentrate on that. The primary focus being to mitigate, if you would, employee embezzlement, you know, from your systems, that kind of thing. Recently, we haven't had many claims. Before, probably in the last 5 to 7 years prior to that, we were having quite a few. But right now, we haven't. Okay. That,
Great, just a,
Sure.
We have a couple of board members on MACRS and MSPOA. Do we get any extra points for that?
if you have board members,
Mm-hmm. Well, your sheriff and our road supervisor are each board members.
I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't think you do. I think it's just a matter of attendance, that kind of thing. But I'll talk to Amelia and Jim about that, and see
okay,
what they think.
all right.
That's not a bad point, because, you know, if you have participation by your elected officials, it might even get, I don't know. You know, we're, in participation means not necessarily, it could be participation by anyone in the county. As long as they put down Broward County when they check in or whatever. It doesn't have to be doesn't have to be one of you or anybody else, it's just a matter. But that's something I'll ask Jim and Amelia about, because they're the ones basically that monitor the criteria.
Okay,
So I don't think so.
all right, I still had to ask.
Well, okay, I'm sure. You can lobby for it.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, are there any questions on property and casualty? Any claims that you're dealing with? Anything going on that way, or as far as questions? Okay. Work comp. Now Julie's not involved with you on work comp, but she still is interested, I'm sure. The rates for this year are less, other than 9420, which is your road crew. 9420 rate is 819, went up to 881. All the rest of the rates went down. Your mod factor clicked down a little bit, 1.05 to 1.03, which helps. You definitely want to get under 1 eventually, but keep up your safety programs and keep, it only results in, right now, I think we have 5 counties at 1.25, which is our maximum. We max it at 1.25 mod. In 2010, 2010, we had 16 counties at 1.25. So we've gone from 16 to 5, which to me means we're doing something right, as far as the mod factors are concerned. So in the rates, we're continuing to try to, we have the same thing in the work comp trust, trying to achieve a 90% confidence level. Right now we're at 83. So, and plus, we are regulated by the Department of Labor. We have to achieve, their benchmark is 25% of total asset equity. Right now we were at 30. Right now we're at 25.8. So we still need to, and we're trying to do it by reducing claims, not by increasing rates. So that's the main objective. So we're doing, I think, better than we had been like 10 years ago when we had a deficit. But that's the new rates. And the next couple forms are what Immunity uses to evaluate your safety program. And again, I don't know if you've been here yet to evaluate your safety program yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. And this will accompany whatever, and again, the work comp trustees approved 100,000 return for loss control credits. So you'll be getting 2 checks if you in fact receive a loss control credit, one from the Property and Casualty Trust and one from the Workers' Compensation Trust. Okay. That's it. As far as any, trying to think of any issues that have come up since the renewals. Not really. I mean, I think the trustees will be meeting next at the annual conference. No, excuse me, at the end of this month for the Board of Directors budget meeting. And then we're having our Defense Council meeting on the 12th. And the county attorneys are invited to come to that. So just get hold of Greg Bonilla or his office if you want to attend. And it's a very, I find it, I can't be there this Friday, but there's CLE credits in the morning, for attorneys. And then that afternoon's a roundtable. And that roundtable, they discuss all the claims they dealt with and some of the issues. I don't know if you're aware of the Long Soldier claim or situation. Long Soldier was a Native American from Harlem, 6'6", 6'7" kid that was really a good basketball player. And he was arrested on a minor warrant in Blaine County. And of course, they don't have a jail anymore, so they took him into Hill County. Well, it just happens to be that he has been an alcoholic since age 9. And they put him in jail, and he started going into DTs. So they took him from the jail to the hospital. The hospital took a look at him, gave him something, sent him back. Well, he was okay for a while, but then he entered some real severe DTs. And I'm not familiar with what all that entails. So they called the hospital, and the hospital said, no, he's all right. He ends up dying. And so, of course, his family sued the hospital, and sued Hill County, and sued Blaine County on a civil rights action to begin with. That, in fact, his civil rights had been, because he was Native American. Then I went to the hearings officer, found there wasn't. But I went to the Human Rights Commission here at the state, and they found there was, naturally, for $1.3 million or whatever it was. So we appealed it to district court. Judge Sherlock sent it back to the hearings officer. So that's where it's at right now. Meantime, they filed a tort action, negligence action in district court in Great Falls. Meantime, the hospital already settled. They were sued as well. They settled. I know this gets a little complicated, but it's important from the standpoint of the decision the district court judge made. So we went through the process in district court up in Great Falls. The district court judge said that Hill County, who maintained and operated the detention center, was responsible for his death, period. Nobody else was. Blaine County wasn't, the hospital wasn't, even he had a medical malpractice situation possibly. So therefore, the only entity